Did you know that Corvina is a little bit of an odd duck as far as wine grapes go? Because it has thick skins, but low color intensity and really high acid. Now, this combination seems to work quite well in warmer climates, which is why, even outside of Italy, Corvina is really gaining popularity in regions like Australia and Argentina in the New World. And you might say,
is there a point to all this?
Why all this talk of Corvina? Well, mostly because today's HanDrinksSolo wine info video focuses on Zenato's Rosso Veneto, which is a red blend built around the cultivar of Corvina and put together in the cellar by winemaker Alberto Zenato. Zenato is a family-owned estate that was founded in the 1960s by the local legend Sergio Zenato. Now, he became something of a hero in his hometown of Lugano, which is on the southern shores of Lake Garda, mostly because of his pioneering work making really fine wines out of what was then a relatively obscure local indigenous cultivar called Trebbiano di Lugano, or Turbiana. Now, through his work with this grape, he pretty much single-handedly achieved DOC status for Lugano, and in doing so, reinvented the local wine industry. Since then, Sergio's children, Alberto and Nadia, have taken over, and today they produce about 2 million bottles per vintage. So despite being family-owned, they are by no means teensy-weensy. Having said that, they do only have about 70 hectares under vine on the actual estate, and so they have to source fruit from other regions around Veneto, most notably from Valpolicella, and it's from this region that their Amarone Superiore and other Appassimento wines are made. When making Appassimento wines, a portion of the grapes are set aside and dried until they've lost about 30% of their mass. They are then tossed into the fermentation vat along with all the other already fermenting grapes. Now, you have to remember, these dried out little suckers have not lost any of their color, they've lost none of their sugar and none of their acid. In fact, all they really have lost is water. So adding these concentrated raisin grapes into the fermentation vat is going to add an epic boost on all fronts. It's like giving a toddler a 6-pack of Red Bull and a can of paint and then locking them in a cupboard with your mother-in-law. The end result is bound to be intense. What you see in these cases is a huge boost of color, but there's also a boost of sugar. Now, some of that sugar is converted into alcohol, so you get a boost of alcohol as well. The end result is these rich, rather concentrated, heavy wines that not only have rich color and higher alcohol, but also these amazing, ripe, velvety fruit elements. Of course, if you tried to perform this trick with a cultivar like Cabernet Sauvignon, it would seem like pure madness. But with Corvina and its lower color intensity, it really does seem to be served quite well by this boost. Zenato produce around 50,000 bottles of their Rosso Veneto each year. When to give you local scale, that's only about 15% more than Canoncorp produce of their Paul Sour blend. The blend is made up of 60% Corvina, along with a 25% component of already mixed Cabernet, Sauvignon and Merlot, and then there are splashes of Rondinella and Corvinone. And it's these last two that are particularly important to Corvina for their ability to add more color. In fact, if you look at the cultivars of Corvina, Corvinone, Rondinella and Molinari, they are about as inextricably linked in Veneto as you'd find with Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot and Cabernet Franc in Bordeaux. Now, when it comes to the Appassimento portion in this particular wine, it really is quite mild. It's only about 20% of the Corvina grapes that are dried prior to fermentation. And when you taste this wine, you'll see that it doesn't quite have the same power that you might find from a Valpolicella DOC Superiore or an Amarone della Valpolicella DOCG. These wines really are quite formidable. Well, when we give this guy a sniff, we get a fairly pleasant nose that seems to blend elements of berries and spice. On the fruit side of things, we get elements like blackberries, strawberries, and even jammy mulberry notes. There's also a touch of raisin, which I guess kind of makes sense in that a portion of this wine is made with actual raisins. But then alongside the fruit notes, we also have more savory, slightly more interesting elements of leather and white pepper and dried Mediterranean herbs. Then when we take a sip, we find that keeping in balance with the nose, the palate is fairly moderate in weight. It has a soft entry and there's quite a lot of sort of candied fruit sweetness. But then coming around those fruit elements, there is also some rather lovely berry acidity, that white pepper spice that we smelt on the nose, and also some fairly fine tannins. And the beauty of the combination of the tannins and the spice and that berry acidity is that it kind of couches those sweeter, softer fruit elements and makes sure that no one ends up presenting as too flabby. And if you want to tease apart those fruit components in the middle a little more, well, we definitely have some strawberry candy, and we've already talked about those jammy mulberry notes, but there's also some really pleasant blackberry. And so that combination of perhaps blackberry and the white pepper, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this could be a lighter styled South African Shiraz. So that's all we have time for today. But if you have any questions about the Appassimento process or about Zenato, then leave a comment on the website and I will try and get back to you. And if you enjoyed today's video, then support us on Patreon and subscribe to the YouTube HanDrinksSolo channel, where we publish at least 6 videos each month talking about things like wine science, wine history, unusual cultivars, and some of the rising winemaking stars that are coming out of the unique South African wine business.